You're listening to the Kristof podcast, a podcast where I have conversations with inspirational people. My name is Chris, but my family calls me Kristof. My goal is to have as many conversations as possible with people who have forged their own path by pursuing their dreams, making them a reality, all the while emitting positivity and sharing this knowledge with others. I seek these people out and share this information with you, proving to the world that you can do what makes you happy and do what you want for a living while being a good human being. We'll talk about careers, but we'll also cover any story that inspires. Let's do this while helping each other. Thanks for listening. I'm happy you're here. Hey everyone, welcome to the Kristof podcast. This is conversation number 40. I can't believe it. Thank you so much for listening to this. Thank you for sharing all of the positive feedback. But equally importantly, I am so thankful for the guests that I am able to have on this show. My guest today is Dana Keith. He is a father and a filmmaker, and I couldn't be more thankful for him to give all the time that he gave me today, because he's a very, very busy individual, but he's a great human being who had so much to share. We got into some very deep content so quickly, emotional content about friends, family, business, entrepreneurship, and just life in general, mindset, spirituality, mental health, physical health. We talked about it all. We really left no stone unturned. I'm very, very excited to share this conversation with you. So without further ado, welcome to the Kristof podcast.
Man, well, first and foremost, man, a pleasure to be doing this with you. You know, I couldn't thank you enough for the opportunity, and the platform alone is incredible. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I really do appreciate you being a guest here. You know, as we were talking about, we've connected with a mutual friend of ours, a good friend of mine. I told you, one of the very few people that I still keep in touch with in my life, all the way back dating, 15, 16 years ago. So to be able to have somebody like that still in my life, and then introduce me to somebody that I see eye to eye on a lot. Like, we just met on Skype, but, our content resembles each other a lot. So to be able to connect like that through a mutual friend, to have friends that are aware of these people in their lives, and to bring those people together that are doing similar but different things, to me is priceless. So I really appreciate that. So thank you, John. Thank you very much.
Yeah, for sure. Shout out to John. I got chills when you're saying that.
Yeah, man.
And just to speak on John real quick, bro, I value John's friendship so much. He's one of the few people that you can talk to on a very high level. Yeah. And I couldn't thank him enough. Yeah,
absolutely. Obviously I have this podcast. You are actually, this is awesome. This is conversation number 40. So every conversation is equally important to me, but when I hit these milestones, I can't believe I'm getting to these milestones. So thank you for being on 40. That's very cool. But John, he is somebody that I love talking to for many reasons, but because of what you said, like I love dive deep and quick in all these topics, these deep topics. So if I have somebody in my life that I'm keeping in touch with consistently, it's probably because they can go, punch for punch with me with, getting into these deep conversations. And what I love even more about him, a really good thing that I like about him that I want to make abundantly clear off the bat, is him and I don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, whether political or whatever it is. But, we're cognizant of that, and we're able to articulate ourselves in a healthy manner to where, we're not jumping down each other's throat, and we're not just waiting for the next time to talk. Like, we hear each other too. So I think that's really important to talk about.
So important. It's critical. And, that trait that you just spoke about is you see it a lot in more successful people, and more people that are more prone to speak about tough subjects, which is, you can't have a tough conversation without that. And I do specifically remember John saying, like, hey, we don't see eye to eye, but we are more than happy to have that conversation.
Yeah.
Just to kind of make this whole thing spin in circles, man, I go to John with my fucking personal problems, like my relationship, and man, he gives me just a level head, like, hey man, like, for example, I'll just go and throw this out. Like, he always tells me, my lady now is a stay-at-home mother for 6 months, and she's never stayed at home. Yeah. John is the first person to tell me how important it is to communicate with her and to enforce things with her. And I have so much respect for John and the level of, like I said, conversation that he articulates, like 100%. Great man, great man.
Yeah, easily. I easily that resonates with me so much because of that. I mean, I've gone to him for that, and he's gone to that for me. Like we were talking, it's funny if anybody's listening and actually from back home, because you're in Colorado Springs. I grew up in a small town west of that, up in the mountains, almost at 9,000 feet up in Woodland Park. You know, for those listening that don't know what that is, but we used to work at a pizza shop together back when I was really, going hard in high school. But, we would help each other with that kind of stuff too. So that evolves. And then, our views split over the years based on, our circumstances and things we perceive, how we perceive them, our experiences. But regardless of how, like, our ultimate perception of our world around us, we still are able to talk about that. So I think the huge takeaway from that is like, don't immediately like discriminate against somebody just because you don't maybe see eye to eye with them on something. Like you still I feel like that's a lot of like the world we're living in right now. Like I don't talk about politics a lot just because you can't talk to people about politics now. Like I'm willing to like, probably he is one of the few people that I do talk to about that, because we can have that kind of conversation. But for the most part, people just won't, they immediately like cut you out of the picture. And you can't talk to them. So regardless if it's politics or whatever it is, if you don't agree with that person, like hear them out and don't automatically think that they're wrong. And hopefully, they reciprocate that, and you guys can actually have like a smart, intellectual conversation, and actually hear each other out. Because I hate people always bashing each other. And usually I see what happens is like people are like, you don't convince anybody the otherwise, but you just like further solidify how they felt in the first place.
Right. Yeah, something that I pull from that is very intriguing in politics. It's left wing and right wing. Yeah. Well, in my perspective, I'm very much a conservative, but in my perspective, like you have to take some validity of what they're saying and have to take that into consideration. Absolutely. And maybe you don't agree with what they're saying, but I think it's important to understand, what do you think about that? Yeah. That component that may be true. What do you think? And, I tell my lady, I'm so in my own mind in a sense that, I protect my own thoughts. And I want to make sure I clarify what I mean by this, because my thoughts, I have to value my own thoughts extremely. And when I have a conversation with somebody like John, for example, who challenges my ideas and my thoughts, I have to then have my own conversation, my own ideas, and really a discussion with myself about that. Why is that right? Mm-hmm. And more importantly, I think that what I love to discuss is, how can we fix that? What is the solution to something like that? What is going to push us towards, something better? And I love that idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the end goal, right? Is to make things, whatever they are, society, our living situation, better for everybody. And it's like you said, why does it, to me, and I may or may not have talked about this before, but I hate the fact that there's a left and the right, and it's so competitive. And there's like, why do you only have to be everything on the left? Why do you have to only be everything on the right? Like, why can't you pick what works from the left, what works from the right, what works from the middle, and take all those things and then realize that some things aren't going to work on the left or the right or the middle, but let's work together as a team essentially and find the things that do work and find the things that don't work.
Right. There's a phrase, man, I'm really into all these conversations, and there's a phrase that I keep hearing is, when does the left go too far left? And that's such a debate, man. That's such a debate of, that whole extremity. But then I myself, I take some of the points, but, without the extremeness of it, there's some truth in it. And, we gotta ultimately come together to find what's going to work. But I think that having the conversation is so important to getting to the resolution, because without that conversation or willingness to have it, like you said, with somebody who doesn't see eye to eye with you is the important aspect of it. I love that part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. That you said it perfectly. You definitely took it right out of my mouth there. But I know, getting back to some of the things we talked, first and foremost, you are a recent father of a 6-month-old baby boy, so congratulations on that.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's incredible. We were talking about that too. I have a daughter on the way, much like everybody knows. I'm very excited. our whole family's very excited for our first as well. You're a filmmaker, you're a creator, you're a content creator, a raw content creator that is very impassioned about what he does and cares about other people, cares about family. All those things are really easy for me to say or for me to see. So when John says, hey, you need to check out my buddy, I think he'd be great. You know, it only takes me 2 seconds to watch of a video to realize that person would be perfect to speak to. And so, yeah, man, I see you stand all about all those things. And I know your primary job is a filmmaker, correct? Or what else are you doing? Because I know your videos look great, man.
Thanks, man. So I'll give you a quick synopsis. So I'm Dana Keith. I'm a filmmaker, so I own my own business, Dana Keith Film. And that's really it. So what I do full time is videography, video production. Currently, I do work for a corporate company still. So I have my, it's a 10-hour gig, so I can't say 9 to 5, but 4 tens. So I still work 4 days, long days, 10-hour shifts at a corporate company. And to be specific, I work at T-Mobile. Within T-Mobile, I'm not on the phones at the moment. I'll tell you a quick story in a synopsis is basically I did video so much I always brought my laptop to work to edit while in between calls. Yeah. And I got an opportunity to do a film for T-Mobile basically for their once a year. Everybody gets off the phones and we kind of regroup, and I got an opportunity to do that. And with that 10-minute slot that they allotted me, mind you, this is to give you a full story, man, I got to do a vlog about it. But basically, I found out about the film on Thursday. Friday, I had to film, and it had to be turned around by Wednesday. Whew. Now, mind you, at this specific time, I only had 1 battery, 1 memory card, and I did not have the equipment to produce the outcome that they were looking for. Yeah. But lo and behold, I didn't really sleep much that 5-day stint. And just to throw this out there, mind you, I filmed on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I already had booked, so there's no way I could work on that. So literally Monday and Tuesday was my time to work on it. At any rate, they created a position for me. Wow. So in the call center, I do film and video production by myself for the site. So it's basically best practices, recognition, and things in that nature. So it's a communication recognition position.
That's incredible.
Which it's not permanent per se, but it allows me to do what I love, making video, working on video, learning the craft, and at the same time apply these techniques to my business on the outside world. So I'm in such an amazing position that I couldn't be more thankful.
Yeah, I mean, for those listening and not watching on YouTube, like I had a perma smile the whole entire time you were talking, thinking about that, how you created a position for you, because that's one thing I love to talk about on the podcast is people, I mean, essentially what it boils down to is people creating things that weren't there before. So if you thought maybe you couldn't do something, well, maybe that position doesn't even exist. Kind of like I was talking to Swayze Valentine on conversation number 33, and she's the first cut woman ever for the UFC. So that's like, to me, that's the first person I thought of when you were talking to, because that position you said it wasn't even there. And because you're so impassioned about this on the side, yeah, you do have to work your day job. Like I work a day job too. That resonates with me. However, to be able to do what you love on the outside and then incorporate that with your corporate job, like, man, that's awesome. Obviously, they recognize how much work and how much time and effort you put into it, and I'm just laughing while you're telling the story too, because you're like, I already had stuff booked on Saturday and Sunday, and then essentially you only worked on it Monday and Tuesday, but you made it happen. And like, that's everything. That's like all like rolled up into a little ball what I'm trying to do here and show to other people. Like your story right there that you told in just a few moments was everything I'm trying to do. You are working a job, because let's be real, none of us just, I'd say, most of us don't wind up in a position to where we can automatically do what we love. And I mean, that would be a great world, but that's not the case. So, I'm talking to you, you're working your 4 10-hour shifts. I'm working my 9 to 5. And and we're working these long shifts, and then we come home. Like I work on the podcast every night, I work on the weekend, and I still make time for my family. You make time for your family. So this is the point of doing these things while still doing what you want, and then not giving up, and then creating these opportunities. Like your hat says, hashtag no luck's given. Now, I don't know what that means to you, but I can interpret it right now and say, that wasn't a chance. That wasn't luck that happened. You work really, really hard at what you're doing. And then, they saw that. And so you're able to implement that in your job and do that. And you also, are doing it on the side successfully as well. And if you, and I'm sure, is that something you want to do solely? Like, is your goal, would one of your goals be to solely work as the Danny Keith, photographer, or the videography stuff?
Yeah, Danny Keith film. So,
excuse me.
Yeah, so this is interesting, and I'm glad to openly have that conversation or thought process here on the show. So basically, recently, and let me kind of make this spin all the way around. So,
Sure.
No Luck's Given is a brand of somebody that I work for. So one of my main clients and my mentor, I'll just go ahead and tell you.
Sure.
He's my mentor. He's an incredible friend. He's a business partner. But more important, he's my client. And basically, his name is Brother Luck. And if you look Chef Brother Luck up on the internet, I mean, he's international, man. But he's right here in the heart of Colorado Springs. He started his business about 5 years ago. Long story short, he's got this new restaurant, and he's got all types of publicity.
Awesome.
So Chef Brother Luck has been on Top Chef twice. He's on Top Chef this season. So if you're listening to this live, check into Top Chef. Last Chance Kitchen is what he's fighting for to get back onto the show. He's been on Chopped, Beat Bobby Flay, the whole Food Network.
Oh, yeah.
Scheme. So his name is actually first name Brother, last name Luck. And he came up with the motto, No Luck's Given, which is basically his brand.
Okay.
And the brand embraces hard work, which is, the play on no fucks given, if I can curse.
Yeah, absolutely.
No luck's given, meaning, hard work, meaning that he earned everything that he worked for. And at the same time, that he wants to push this message of self-awareness. And that's really where No Luck's Given comes from. And I can tell you, like Chef Brother Luck is incredible. He is by far the most influential person that I've ever been around. So to bring this story all the way back around, about 2 months ago, his wife asked me, and we were at an event. We were up in Denver with a couple other Top Chef contestants. And basically she asked me, she said, what is your goal?
Mm-hmm.
And Kristof, when I tell you, man, I froze. Like, and in my mind, I'm working I've been doing this for years, man. I'm working so hard. I have a goal in my mind, right?
Yeah.
But for somebody to ask me that question, I literally had to let it a little bit. I got a little caught off guard. Like, what do you mean, what is my goal? Like, I want to do this film thing. That's what I want to do. You know what I mean? But I think it was so important for me to be challenged in that sense, especially at that time in my life. Mm-hmm. To be more clear on my goals. What is the goal? Do I want, let's say, all right, I'm just going to throw this out in the air. Let's say T-Mobile said, hey, come work for headquarters, be a videographer, and make a film for us. Would that even make me happy?
Yeah.
I don't know if it would. To answer your question, Kristof, yeah, my goal is definitely to be full-time on my own business, Danny Keith Film. But I also want to evolve. So at the moment, I do photography and videography. But my goal and my business idea that I truly believe will come to fruition is a full one-stop shop media company.
Yeah.
So what I mean by that is basically, let's say any venue, any event or any small business for that matter can come to my business and we run their business through it, and you come out with obviously productivity. Mm-hmm. So all spectrum. So what I mean by media team, photography, website, graphic design, photo, videography for commercials, marketing, logos, the whole nine. Mm-hmm. And basically, I work with all these people right now. Like I've been in this town for about 6 years. I have my hand pretty well on what's going on in a creative sense. So when I think about like weddings, for example, I did my first wedding this last year. And I was like, wow, like I know a caterer, Chef Brother Luck. I know photographers. I hire them. Yeah. I know videographers. I work with them. I know bartenders. You know what I mean? And it comes down to like, okay, this whole synopsis of a situation is something that's very tangible. And I think that's, to answer your question, is my goal? Well, yeah, I definitely want to be. Actually, just to touch on this, I watched Frank's interview recently. And I mean, he said he wanted to hire a CEO.
Yeah.
You know, I've never heard of some shit like that. So
I mean, you saw my reaction.
It hit me. It was like, wow, yeah, I want to be that guy to hire a CEO.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe, you know, that's not my end goal at the moment, you know, per se, because I'm so stuck in the creative.
Yeah, but it gets you thinking like some other shit. Like I didn't even, like you said, when I was listening to that, just like I'm listening to you right now in real time, I was like, how do I even respond to that? My mind hasn't even processed information like that before. So like, just like your end goal is your film company, my end goal is a podcast that are helping other people through another company. So I was like, yeah, but I want to run the company. I want to help people. I want to coach people. I want to help them change their lives around. But this guy's like hiring people to do that. I'm like, what? So ultimately, regardless, and I say all this to you because regardless of if you want to be like Frank and do what he does, I think what that kind of information does is like open up a new avenue in your mind to be like, I haven't even processed this information in my life before. So what other stuff that I haven't even thought of that I can make come into fruition in my life? Regardless of where you want to take your company, like there's so many opportunities out there that you haven't even like thought about yet. Like there's so many different things that you just continue thinking and continue grinding and doing, going towards what you want. Like I know you talked about, what was it? I think setting goals like a rocket, right? So you just latch onto it and it just like the heat-seeking missile just chases something. You don't necessarily where it's going to go, but you need to know what you're going to get after. So I loved hearing you say that, and that kind of goes back to what this is as well, is, man, just start pursuing that dream, that goal. Like I was asking you, kind of where do you want to see it? So yeah, you're getting after it, and you're doing everything you need to do right now to like, you're just doing it, right? You're getting after it. You started, you know, a while ago, you keep on doing it. You're networking with amazing people. You have a mentor. You're doing all these things. So you maybe don't necessarily know where you're going to wind up, and that's totally fine. And that's like another thing that I'm glad you brought up, because that's what I want to show people too, is that you started it, you continue doing it, you're meeting people, you're helping people. It's so reciprocated the entire time. And then you will get there. And then along the way, like, yeah, when I heard Frank say that, I was like, this is crazy. What other things that I haven't even thought of that are even remotely possible? It's crazy.
And I think what's so important about that idea is surrounding yourself with people that can challenge you, that do have ideas that are far beyond your norm.
Exactly.
And that's what I get out of hanging with brother, man.
Yeah, that's good.
Let me take to a quick story. So this is last week, all right? So last week, I have a routine schedule with brother. Basically, every week we have a meeting. And whether he's there or not, let me tell you, I'm going to edit while he's either coming or sometimes he doesn't come. But so Wednesday we had a specific meeting. We kind of had a general time frame. He was like, man, I'm busy. I was like, hey, I'll be at the shop at this time. So I show up about 9:30 in the morning, and he probably didn't show up till like 11:30. Well, long story short, brother comes in, we have our normal meeting. I mean, he's just gem. He's just dropping so much knowledge on me. He's opening up a new restaurant, just to throw this out there. He just announced it yesterday. And that's kind of like what he was talking to me about at that time, was the process of opening a restaurant, the process of having a business plan, you know, doing the research on that area, that research on, you know, that business, and projecting these sales and numbers. And you know, literally that's like the synopsis of our meeting. And then we're also talking about, you know, no luck's given, what our plan with that branding looks like. And, you know, so basically we're having this meeting, and he says to me, he says, yeah, I got two-time Super Bowl champ coming in for lunch. And I was like, what? You know, like a casual, you know, Super Bowl champion coming to my restaurant. But no, he had Rod Smith. So Rod Smith played on the Broncos, you know, with John Elway, Shannon Sharp, all the legends.
Yeah, back in the day.
And, you know, Rod Smith walks into the restaurant while we're having our meeting. And then, you know, he gets up from our table, and literally, like, as if we're sitting here, he sits here. You know what I mean? So he's sitting right next to me, Brother Luck and Rod Smith, you know, iconic situation. I'm like messaging my friend, hey, man, Brother Luck is right next to Rod Smith, right next to me, you know. So basically, the reason why I tell you this story is I get up from, you know, editing. I was going to take my little 15-minute break. And as I step out of my seat, Brother Luck introduces me to Rod Smith. So I tell you that story for two reasons. One, like when I woke up in the morning, I had no ambition to be around, somebody of caliber of Rod Smith, who's a Hall of Fame football player, right? I just had the ambition of doing my job.
Yeah.
Right. So literally by doing my job and being there, I was able to have the blessing of literally he invited me to sit in on their meeting. So for that next hour, I listened to these two gentlemen speak and, I tell you that because the ideas and their thought process is just on a different wavelength of maybe somebody different. And I felt genuine in my heart, I felt like a sponge.
Yeah.
Like literally,
yeah, that's a great way to put it.
The reasons, like the thought process that they had behind what they're saying was just so deep, and it really resonated in how they are or why they are where they are. And so I mean, what an amazing situation to be able to share a conversation with somebody like Rod Smith. And one key gem that I'll share with you guys from the conversation is basically Rod Smith came up from a very rugged background. And he says at one point, he says that I didn't have the faith in myself to do the things that I wanted to do. He didn't have that faith in himself. But what he said that I promise you, I will never forget this. He said that he took his mentor's faith in him and borrowed it until he built his own. God, it's so incredible to imagine, somebody who, caught a Super Bowl 80-yard touchdown and, Super Bowl didn't have faith in himself.
Yeah.
But by being around people that spark ideas that maybe you are not accustomed to.
Absolutely.
And then embracing his mentor and the faith that his mentor had in him, man, that is it's priceless.
It's mind blowing. I mean, you can't hear a better example than that for yourself, talking about you being a sponge, being around people like that, me talking to Frank, him blowing my mind with some of the things he was saying. And then, you talking about him as a child, not believing in himself, growing up, playing that sport. And then to see where he is now, it's hard to think of maybe somebody like that, of that caliber,
right,
like not believing in themselves. But it's so easy to say it after the fact. But when you're grinding through it at the time, it's so hard to see it. And I was actually talking to somebody I recently connected with that's actually been mentoring me, Tariq. And so shout out to him. He's been so helpful. And he was telling me, he's like, you really just have to, one of the first things you have to do, if not the first thing that you have to do, is you have to anchor the idea in your head that it's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Because I've been looking to him for some guidance, and he's been overwhelmingly helpful. But it's just like that example you gave of him. Like, man, you have to believe in yourself. And to me, it's crazy hearing that he didn't do that. And he, like, as you said, he borrowed it from his mentor and implements it in his life, somebody like that. But I mean, that's a perfect example of saying, like, this is somebody who has literally reached the pinnacle, the absolute peak of his profession, and that's how he started out. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep, exactly. That's the story. Is no matter where you are, what you have going on in your life. And I say this with extreme intent because, man, if I could give you a synopsis of my life in real time, like the things that I'm dealing with, just so crazy. But the idea of having a mentality, the idea of having, I'll just give you straightforward, man. I believe that if you know what you're doing and why you're doing it, you can figure out how to do it. And this is something that I'll just go ahead and share it with you. And by the way, congrats on your daughter coming, because I'll just speak in the terms of my son. Me and my lady are going through some things, together as a couple, just normal debacles. And I turned to her and I asked her and I said, what are some goals that you're working on? What are your goals that you're working on? Because, bro, if I could tell you, man, I got so many around here. I got them all written down. But I asked her that, and she was like, I think that might be the problem. So I broke it down to her. I said, you know what? I have it still. Matter of fact, on my wall, I don't know if you can see it. There's 4 papers right here.
Sure.
Those 4 papers are the product of me doing this extreme long list. And my lady, for example, I told her to do the same thing. forget me in the scenario. What do you want? What are some things that you want to accomplish? What are they? More importantly, list them all. They could be obnoxious, by the way. For anybody listening that needs to do this,
yeah,
I strongly encourage you to do this, because I did this on October 2017. And as a little bit over a year later, like, I can look at this list. I have it over here as the first list. I hand wrote it, then wrote it on the computer, and then created a plan for it. But what do you want to do? And there's no limitations on what it is. Like, it could be obnoxious. I have some obnoxious goals. Let me tell you, Kristof. When I, get to them, I have to invite you to come along with it. But the idea of writing everything down of what you want to
just getting it out.
And then, more importantly, I think the significant part of telling you that story is the second half, which is the how. I think that it's so important to write down everything that you can imagine of how you can accomplish what you wrote down. For one thing that you might want to accomplish, you have 7 different things of how you can get to it. And, you have to go down that entire list and writing it down, thinking about yourself, acknowledging what it is that you want. And I did this for 6 categories. I did for family, business, health, financial, mental health, as well as personal development. So those are the categories that I broke it down into. And I wrote down, what do I want out of these things? I wrote down everything. I'm talking about obnoxious things to simple things. I wrote down every idea how I had to do it and accomplish these things. And then, your foundation that you sit on, this whole idea, is why you're doing it. Why do you deserve this? Why do you see this in your life? And I think that if you have a strong enough why, you can figure the rest out. But you have to start with what, how, why. And I use that for my video production. I use that for my clients. Like, for example, if you came to me and said, hey, I want to make a film, I promise you I'd ask you these 3 questions. I'd say, what is a film that you want to make? How do you think that you can make that? How do you think we can go about making this? What is the goal and why are we doing this? You know what I mean? Why are we making this film? What is the intention? Who are you trying to pull in? For example, for a lot of clients, it's business, advertisements and promotion, things like that. So those 3 questions, I truly believe, and this is, I'm so deep with it that, I apply it to every single thing in my life, from, like I said, from business to, videos that I have, to any personal thing. But I'm very deeply passionate about, if you know what you want and write down all the hows and things, that what you're going to find out when you do this is you only needed 2 of the hows. You only really accomplished with 2 of the hows of what you were trying to get accomplished initially. But having that list of things that, man, I could do this, I could do that.
Yeah.
So just kind of spin this back to me, man.
Sure.
I do the YouTube thing. I'm very intrigued by YouTube and the platform and the attention that it provides. But my goal is to be a paid YouTuber. So I got to get over a certain amount of minutes watched. I got to get a certain amount of subscribers, which that's a goal. So then I wrote down, how am I going to do this? But this live stream is a part of how I plan to do it. You know what I mean? And why am I doing it? Well, I'll tell you, in the back end, there is financial gain from building a following and a brand.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm looking into doing. I want to theoretically, and I'm sure you've looked into these options, Kristof, being like a, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically somebody who advocates and sells through like links, for example, through like Amazon.
Affiliate marketing, yeah.
So that's one thing that I'm looking into. Like, okay, well, how can I be, affiliate partner in this, like another source of income, right?
Sure.
Then I have these T-shirts. I'm building a brand to be able to sell these T-shirts. You can't get these T-shirts yet. You want to know why? Because I want to add enough value so that when I hit them with a right hook or, a knockout punch, like, it's worth it. Like, I've added enough value in their lives that they're like,
Absolutely.
Yo, I want to represent his brand because he's not going to stop. He's really not going to stop. And I believe in him. You know what I mean? He's added value. So, I look at the whole synopsis of what I want to try and do is multiple sources of income to allow myself the freedom to express myself as a creative and in a creative fashion. What that is, I'm not sure yet, but I promise you I'm headed in that direction.
I love that, Dana. I love it. I truly can tell you that. And I love it for you, for what you're doing. And I love it because it aligns so clearly with what I'm trying to do. You articulated yourself fantastically. about how you wanted to do it. First you got to define it. For people listening, I mean, your walls are littered with these papers of things you want to do. You have a whiteboard. It's funny. I have a whiteboard right up here behind this camera. I have all my goals here. I have all the podcast and business stuff on the right. I have all my family stuff on the left over here. And then, I write down my other goals in my phone, personally. But I love writing it on the wall because, gosh, if anybody's listening to this more than once, they know I'm a huge advocate of writing stuff down. When I talk to people personally, whether it's email, direct messages, phone calls, Skype calls, I always tell them, write down what you want to do. So I cannot reiterate that enough, going back to the beginning of what you're saying, to write stuff down, because to see it out, and especially like maybe you're writing things down like when you're talking to your wife that you didn't even realize that you wanted to do. So like write all these things down and you're like, wow, these are all the things that I want to do. But that's the most important part, is to get it down and get it out, because maybe you lost track of one of them or two of them. But if you got them down on the paper and you keep them like right on your desk and you look at them every single day, then you're going to be like, all right. And then that's the first part, is to get them down. And then the next part is, coming out with the how, like you were saying, like you can figure that out later. But what's important to figure out is what you're going to do. So right. I love that. I love being able to write it down, and I love it goes back to like saying, like, get started, figure out what you want to do, and then you're going to figure out the how along the way, because there may be, like I think you did say, there may be a couple different hows, and there definitely is. It's not one way to get things done. There's multiple ways to get things done, but you at least got to know what you want to do before you start going down that path about how you're going to get it done, right? So write things down, like you said, on paper, whiteboards, notes on your phone, however you want to do, write it down. But man, I
think this comes back to that idea of the rocket. I know you had watched that video. I'm so intrigued with that your mind is more powerful than a rocket. And just to clarify any listeners, the idea with this concept that your mind is more powerful than a rocket is the idea that the rocket first has to latch in or lock into the target. Your mind doesn't need to know where the target is. It doesn't need to know where. It just needs to know what your mind is looking for. And, I think I mentioned this in that vlog is, we kind of talked about it, being surrounded by, the different type of people to allow your ideas to be different, but there was something that I read in a book recently that basically states that your mind is like a garden, and that if your mind is like a garden, that you have to have intent and plant the flower, and you have to have intent and water that flower for the flower to grow, right? But if your mind is like a garden, it takes zero effort for weeds to grow. Zero effort. You don't have to put any attention. You don't even have to think about it. The weeds are going to grow, And I think that if you take that in an analogy of, man, there's so much positivity to focus on. There's so many resources that I can utilize, and kind of like just to extend on that, man, I've been this morning, for example, I went to an entrepreneur event, here in town. Never been to this specific one, but I continue to surround myself with people like that. Like, for example, I'm doing these meetings. So I do a meeting once a month right now. And I promise you, Kristof, it's the most incredible experience that I've had. I have this vision, man. I have this vision that I want to be a speaker, right? And I got to practice my speaking, in front of these people. So I have this meeting. I call it a meeting of creators. And I just invite anybody, So if you have a skill, if you have a trait, that we want to ask you two questions. What are you good at? What are you good at? And what's your skill? So it could be your skill, or it could be a gift, right? So if you're good at speaking, like, for example, we want you there, right? Because we want to empower you on how many ways you can use that skill and that gift to then turn it into a business. So I have these meetings, and it's a meeting of creators. And I love the idea that, one, they take a risk at coming to these meetings. I don't have any incentive, right? Yeah. I created these meetings myself. The first meeting, we had about 10 people, let's say, and the second meeting, very similar. But those two meetings were just so different. One was so far from the other, complete contrast. But I love the idea of people coming together to share, whether it be one mission, because I don't know if everybody's on the same mission, but to share their mission, share what they're good at, what's their gift, or what's their skill. And that alone, I promise you, is such a powerful tool that I use with, whether it be mindset or, for example, creating a team to, highlight their skills, man.
Yeah.
So some of these, they have no skill per se, right? They have no skill, but I invite you because I believe that if you surround yourself in this, like I said, we want to weed out the weeds, right? We want to intentionally plant flowers and water them. And that's what I want to do with these meetings. That's what I want to do with my business. That's what I want to do with continuously, pushing forward. And I think that this message is, very blanketed with, my passion and art it to me. Like, I don't wake up like this, I wake up, man, I'm tired of shit, but I have to have my why that gets me back aligned. I have to know what am I doing that day, and I have to know how am I going to get this accomplished. And sometimes, man, it keeps coming back to those three components that I'm just I'm so passionate about, what that can do to somebody's life.
Yeah, I think it's great that you're going out there, you're deliberately going out there into the world and creating something. You're not just a content creator, but you're going out there and you're helping people connect. We've talked about getting around people that help you grow. So not only are you, a huge pillar that this podcast stands on is helping others, right? So you said you were around Brother Luck and a Hall of Famer pro football player. So you were around them and they were talking to you. So then you turn around and you go out there and you create an environment to where people can go out there and in turn learn from each other and learn from you. So regardless of how good it is or how good they are at what they're doing, they're still around other people that, regardless of what they want to exactly do, they're just around other people that want to go out there and better themselves and meet other people that want to better themselves. So when you deliberately interject and create an environment like that, there's really, like you said, the garden loved that, right? But you go out there and you're deliberately planting flowers and you're weeding out all of the bad stuff. So the takeaway on that is I love it because there wasn't something like that and you went out there and you created it. So you gone out there and once again, just like you're talking about creating this job at T-Mobile, right? With your passion, you're doing something like that. So then you're going out there and not only are you creating somewhere where in turn helps you for this group that you've created, but it also helps all these other people. And that's what this is all about. We want to help ourselves and we want to help each other. And as long as that's consistently reciprocate it, then yes, there's going to be failures met along the way. It's not going to be perfect the entire time, but eventually you're going to get there. Just like I said, you don't know where that rocket's going to land, but you're going to go there, and you just need to be deliberate. You need to get going. You need to get around people like that. And you need to be consistent, like you said about it, and you're going to get to where you want to go, even though you don't know where you want to go right now. And I can speak about myself again in the same sense, like, I don't necessarily know where this podcast is going or the business that I'm in the process of creating right now, but I have a really good general idea of where I want to take it, and then I'm figuring it out along the way because obviously I haven't done this before. So I want to, show people that you can create these things. You don't have to know the why immediately, like you were saying, or the how. But you just need to know what you're doing. And like I said, I have this huge, it's the same size whiteboard I think as you, and I have 20 things written on here that I need to do to get this stuff happen. And just having it on there and being able to look at it every single day is a huge pillar of how I base my success off of. I need to have it on there so I know what I'm seeing, and I see it every single day. That's super important. And then I deliberately have conversations with you. So yeah, these conversations, I want to show the listeners or the people watching on YouTube these conversations as well. But I've already learned so much from you. I learned so much from Frank. Like, this is crazy stuff that I would have never, like, you're in Colorado, Frank was in Colombia, people are all over the world. Like, I would have never had these conversations if I had no idea how to make a podcast. Like, I don't have any experience, like I was telling you, like you do. I went out there and I made this podcast because I knew that I wanted to talk to people like this, and I knew that not only did I want to just have these conversations for myself, but I wanted to record them, capture them, and share them with literally the world. And now people over 20 countries out of the world are going to hear this conversation between us because that's how it's grown in like 8 months. So, it's sharing a little bit about myself that, some people already know the background, but I knew nothing. All I knew is that I enjoyed talking and learning from people like yourself. I knew that I wanted to share that with other people. So just as you're getting that from, the people you were with there talking about the restaurant, you've gone out there and created a group to share. So I've gone out there and I've created a podcast, capture that, and I'm sharing that as well. And now we're both sharing that. Like, it's crazy and it doesn't stop. It's just a never ending, like, if you're seeking this positivity and you're seeking, you're ambitious and you're seeking whatever you quantify as success, then ultimately, in my mind, my genuine opinion is that you will, like I just said, like, you will meet failures and things won't work along the way. But ultimately, I think there's no room for failure ultimately, because if this podcast doesn't work, like, I'll just make another podcast. Or if that podcast doesn't work, I'll make another podcast. Or if that first business doesn't work, I'll make another one. So you just got to keep on going. So yeah, you're going to meet these failures. You're going to lose a couple of the battles. But I tell you, I can confidently tell you, I'm going to win the war. I'm going to get a business that's going to work. And just like you're going to make, this company is going to be the company that you solely do. This is what I'm solely going to do. I like my job, my day job. I do. I love the people I work with. They're great. It has nothing to do about them. I want, like, what resonated so deeply with me, what you said, is you wanted the financial freedom, not just because we're money hungry people. It's because this financial freedom allows us to have more time to allot towards imagining and creating this content to benefit ourselves and to benefit other people, to be able to share all this. So, like, I think about that often. I think about, if you work hard enough to where you can create a company out of this, to where that's all you're doing, think about how much more content and how much more time you could allot towards creating this content, and how much more people you could, like, I could double my podcast, I could triple my podcast, I could release 2-3 a week, so then I'd be talking to more and more people like yourself. I mean, that would be crazy. So tripling that, and then reaching more and more people. So when I think about that stuff, which is not even close to happening, but I'm still able to do one a week, so I'm being consistent, like you were saying. I'm still doing it, still going after it. But when I think about that stuff, I'm thinking it into fruition, like you were saying. Like, there was a time in my life, this year when I was starting this podcast, when I didn't think I'd get into the 20s. I didn't get into the 30s. Now here I'm at 40, knocking on 50's door, and I'm like, yo, I'm right there. I'm coming for you. 100, I'm coming for you. Like, it blows my mind how, if you can start to implement some of the things you said, how things actually progress. And it's so scary and terrifying, and it seems so not possible, plainly, in the moment when you're doing it. But I guarantee you, I can speak for myself, and I know you've said it yourself, that when you start writing these things down, like I have here, like you have there, like you've been talking to your wife, I talked to my wife about it, when you start putting these things down and you start looking at it, I'm saying, you just look at it and you're like, I know I can do this. And you have to, like I was telling you about Tariq telling me, you just have to anchor the thought deeply within you that I can do this. Like, it's not an option. Like, you're going to get there, and you have to know that it's not going to be easy, but you got to weed that bad stuff out, like you were saying, and you got to intentionally interject yourself with other people that have similar goals, regardless of if they're the same goals as you. But if they're motivated, they persevere, they've been through some shit like all of us have, and they want a better life for themselves, and they want to help other people along the way. Those are the type of people you need in your life.
And 100%, man. And I think that, especially as somebody like yourself who started something without being a perfectionist at it, I think there's so many points to take in that. One idea that I have, that I talked to another videographer of mine, is, when are you a professional? Because at one point, man, I only had one camera and one battery. I used to show up to video shoots and photo shoots with literally just one bag, But now, let's say if I go to a photo shoot or a video shoot, in theory, like, I have 6 bags. You know what I mean? But does that make me a professional? No, I don't think so. But I think that the idea of that, at this moment, you are never more prepared than right now, right? So I guess what I'm saying is that for you to have the idea of failing your way to success, which is something that I'm so passionate about. I always tell my friends that if anything is consistent, the only consistent that you'll see in me is failure, because I really believe, I'm extremely passionate about the idea of failing to success. Now, let me kind of dive deeper into that.
Sure, please.
So, when, like you said, when you didn't have the let's say, the thought that you could get to 10, you could get to 20. you kept figuring out, well, if I put this here, this connects to here, and then I can kind of flip cameras so they can have a different angle,
Yep.
and then this camera is going to be my center angle. Like, you didn't have that thought at day one.
Absolutely
there was
not.
No way.
Yeah.
But because you kept failing to success and willing to fail, that, ultimately you're learning. Failure
because
is a
you're
mindset,
pushing yourself.
man.
Exactly. Yeah.
God, and I'm so passionate about this because I tell my buddy, I started doing film, just to give you a little background. I started doing video. My buddy used to do music in my house and lived with me for over a year. He had a little studio. He recorded himself all by himself, so it was just him. And then he was like learning to engineer his music. And I hopped in because he needed videos for his music to kind of take off in theory, right? So when I picked up a camera, I didn't know how to film. I didn't know any principles of film, and I sure as hell didn't know how to edit. But I bought a camera, I got the software the next day, and then we filmed, and I had a video the day after. Why is that important? Well, one, because I was willing to go from where I was at this moment. I know X, Y, and Z. No matter what that is, X, Y, and Z, you know it right now. This is where you're at. I was willing to go into that field as I am and fail to success. That's so important, man. It's so important because as you are right now, is perfect. You don't have to do anything else. Just you're already where you need to be.
Absolutely.
You simply have to start. And something that I'll kind of throw in real quick is something that I've found more and more real, which is kind of when I was watching your brother's podcast, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, man, there are more resources out in this town to help me get to where I want to be than I thought initially.
Yeah.
So these resources, God, there's so many, but how do you use a resource if you don't know what you want? Because then they can't help you. You don't know what resource you can utilize.
Exactly.
Hell, if I went to a utility company, they couldn't help me with videos. You know what I mean? But, for me...
No, you got to, like you keep on saying, like you got to define what you need first. You got to define what you want first. And then from there, you're going to start to know where to look. And you're not going to know where to look how do you know if you don't know what you're doing,
Yeah, man. But starting where you're at, just start now, is something I'm sincerely passionate about, and failing your way to success, because failure is only learning. You're just learning. Every time I failed, I can tell you hundreds of stories of when I failed doing video, but I promise you I learned. And Brother Luck told me this. He said that you can fail the first time as long as you learn. But if you fail without learning, you're just costing yourself money.
Yeah, no, you're costing yourself money and time is money. I mean, you're just not doing anybody a benefit.
It's okay to fail the first time. It's perfectly fine. And brother was saying the same thing. It's like, man, you gotta fail. But if you do that same thing twice and keep failing without learning why you failed, then you're just costing yourself money. And he's such a businessman. That's like the bottom line.
No, he's got to do it. And the whole time I was also thinking about, like, it's my firm belief that if you're not failing, then are you really pushing yourself hard enough?
Amen.
Like you're definitely not going to grow, just as, a muscle doesn't grow if you do the same weight, right? Your mind doesn't grow if you don't read something more challenging.
Right.
You don't, like you were saying, you don't grow if you're around people that are thinking wild things around you, like their growth is incredible. If you're around those people, then your mind will grow. It's just and if you're trying to do things and you're not failing, then you probably, I'm just saying, you gotta push until you get to failure, and then you're pushing hard. You gotta push hard.
You gotta reset, and then you gotta reset.
Yeah, you gotta dust yourself off, exactly, and just keep on going.
Yeah, right. I say this because he's a fucking Super Bowl champion. I just had a combo with him, like I say it like he's my friend, right? But no, Rod Smith was saying that you should never accomplish your goal, because if you accomplished it, you didn't set it high enough. But you should always reset your goals.
I love
what
that.
He was stressing is that you should never hit it, but you should always reset. And I find so much truth in that, from somebody of his caliber to even have that mindset. That's the type of stuff that I'm talking about.
It's necessary. Absolutely.
It's so necessary. And like I said, like you did, man, you started your podcast as is.
Yeah.
You know, I started this film thing as is.
Yeah.
And through life and through, you know, going to this, you know, you're bound to learn. And one last thing, man, this is, as I was prepping for this conversation, man, I didn't know what I was going to share with you. I just go on tangents at times.
Me neither.
But,
that's the beauty of it.
one thing that I want to share with, and this is something that I struggle with on a daily basis. So I'm no master at this. I'm not a professional, but I can just tell you that I'm aware of it, which is basically chasing happiness. So I'm a firm believer that if you believe that your goal is going to make you happy, then you have the wrong goals. You know, I believe that if happiness is at the end of the equation, you've got the equation wrong. So I want to stress on this, because this is the one message that I'm challenging myself with is, you know, enjoying the journey happy. You know, the journey is not about accomplishing happiness. You know, you'll never get it, bro. I can tell you, man, I can show you a bunch of toys that I have, like, for example, drones, lenses, cameras, 4K, all these things that I wanted. They're on my goal list. They're on my dream list, right? But they didn't make me happy. I can tell you, they did not make me happy. You know, like my lady will tell you, they did not make me happy. You know, you have to start with happiness at the beginning of the equation.
Yeah.
To add on to, you know, what you're dealing with in the equation to the end result, man. I find it too far that people are chasing happiness. What the fuck is happiness?
Yeah.
You know, I think that this is a time that I stress to people that if you don't know what you want, if you don't know what happiness is, man, you got to write that stuff out. You got to start with that what. You know, you got to start with that how you're going to get it. But what are you aiming for? And the reason why I say this is because, man, entrepreneurship and this journey of any journey, for that matter, of an art or a creator, it's very dangerous. And I say this with a humble piece of pie, right? Because I'm in it. And that sometimes is glorified in the wrong fashions. I can tell you, and you would probably relate more to this because you're a creator yourself, man. It gets lonely.
Yep.
It gets stressful.
Yep.
There's pressure.
Yep.
You know, there's things that you don't necessarily want to embrace. And by the way, like, these are all good and positive things, because I believe that you are a product of your struggle, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
But it's so important to start with happiness, like your own happiness. Man, Kristof, if I could tell you, bro, like, there's not a day that goes by that I don't bleed happiness. And if life affects me, let's throw this curveball, and John will tell you, John's a good person to tell you, he knows when I'm off, because I just run on one speed. But if I'm slightly altered in speed, that he knows something's off. Yeah. And I would even challenge you a little bit more, because like I told you, I'm not a professional, but I am embracing this challenge, is that your mind is all about attention, and that the attention that you put on that emotion at that time is how you feel. You know, it starts, you know, there's way more science to this, but I'm giving you the Dana version. But the idea that, you know, that mind state with happiness, like, all equates within some equation together. And that if you are aware that you're not chasing happiness, happiness does not belong at the end of the equation, especially when you're an entrepreneur, because it's so dangerous, man. Me and brother did an interview on mental health. So if anybody's listening, go to YouTube, type in Brother Luck mental health. And it's like a 20-minute interview, but I promise you, man, the exploring mental health, that whole concept, exploring mental health will give you perspective. It's like, you know, going to another country, you know, you have just so much more perspective. Like,
absolutely.
Fuck the shit we stress about. Like, you know, it becomes this. When it's this, you go have some perspective, it becomes this. And, you know, if you're listening, so minuscule is what you'll find. But, you know, the reason why I say that is once again, is 100% predicated on the idea that you're searching for happiness. And that's not the way to go about it, especially in any craft, any business, any art, or for that matter, any lifestyle, man. You have to find happiness first. Or even if you don't find happiness, I'm a fan of finding things to be grateful for. You know, find a couple things, man. A couple things can change you. My lady will tell you, man, when we get in arguments, right? When we get, start fussing, I literally have to take a second, like, okay, I'm thankful for your smart ass mouth. I'm thankful for your fine ass lips giving me all that. You know, I'm thankful for your beautiful stuff, because this allows me to grow. And, you know, I have to have that moment to once again gain perspective, get back into a fine mental capacity, and then approach those things. And I went on a tangent, bro.
No, that's, you said so much fire right now. I'm loving the stuff you talked about happiness. I love the stuff you talked about getting into a heated argument and then being able to be great. And then there's two things there. It's not even like how you interpret an argument or, you know, a heated conversation with somebody you love, but at the same time, how do you in such a situation like that realize what you're grateful for? That's hard to be able to recognize that you're in that heated emotional state and be able to step back and then realize what you're grateful for, and then see that you can apply that to different aspects of your life. And man, I'll be the first to tell you, when you're talking about happiness, I tell you, like, this is something, this is one of the probably greatest things that I'm struggling with this year, and currently I'm getting a lot better at, but is the pursuit of happiness and realizing what you just said. So I wish, I wish I would have heard these words from you earlier, because I mean, I'm happy I'm hearing it now, and I'm happy other people are going to hear that now as a result. But that's something like I was thinking about, that, you know, I was having conversations with my wife about, because I have all these things like I'm talking about, well, Dana, where do you see yourself, you know, with this company? Where do I see myself with my podcast and my business? And I think too many times I was like, happiness, like that's going to bring me happiness, is financial freedom, and just doing the podcast and helping each other or helping other people out coaching is going to bring me happiness. Well, during the meantime, like, I do have a good job, I do have an amazing wife, I do have a great, you know, I'm happy for my home, that I have a roof over my head, and all these great things are happening around me. Like, who am I to not be happy in the moment for all these beautiful things moving around me right now? And like, talking about it now, it kind of gets me emotional, because I'm like, man, that sucks that I was not realizing that in the present I wasn't being as happy as I quite frankly should have been. And that I was, it's like I said, I was in the pursuit of happiness, always thinking that the next thing was going to bring me happiness, while not living in the moment. And I know that's like so cliche, you know, that's written on everything, like live in the moment. But like, I think even deeper than living in the moment is you know, like you're saying, like, be happy in the moment. Like, you can be happy in the moment while you're pursuing more happiness and more things but like you said, like, you buy the drone, like, oh, it's going to make me happy, but like my wife can tell you it didn't. And that's funny, because like, just, you know, you have those kind of conversations with your significant other, whoever they may be, and they see you for what it is, and it's good to be able to talk to them. Like, you know, John was saying, he's such a, he needs to be on here because he's so great to talk to. But like, he was saying to you about, you know, like, you need to be able to communicate with your wife when you're having issues or something. Like, I know one thing we talk about, like, you have to be able to communicate, and that's what, like, this again is all about. Like, you and I are communicating, other people are hearing us, we're communicating with them. When you have an argument or a conversation with your wife or a significant other, whoever it is, your friends, your family, you have to communicate with them. You have to be able to not emotionally attack those situations, and be able to digress, pull yourself back, think about, you know, what the hell are we really talking about? Why? And it goes back to like politics too. Like, am I just trying to prove you wrong? Are you just trying to prove me right? Or are we actually listening to what the hell we're saying to each other? And then let's take a second step back, and let's like think about what we're grateful for in this moment, because ultimately I love the shit out of you and you love the shit out of me. And why are we doing this right now? This is stupid. Are we just making something bigger than it is, than it has to be? You know, let's be happy in the moment. Let's happy that we have each other, be thankful and grateful for everything we have, while we're in the pursuit of everything else we're trying to get for. It's tough, man, and it's tough to talk about. You know, you're impassioned about it, I'm impassioned about it, clearly, and I think it's so important. That's why these conversations are so important to me, and that I'm so happy that people continue to be guests on them, because these things need to be said. It's so hard, and I think it just takes practice to continue doing these things, because so many times, like, I would get in an argument with not even just her, with, you know, with anybody. And I'm just like, I'm just trying to be right. I'm just trying to be heard. I'm not listening to these people. I'm not like thankful for anything that's going on. And like I said, I'm still struggling with being happy and being more present in my life while I'm in that pursuit of greatness, and I'm in that pursuit of doing what the hell I want to do. And it's so hard. Like these are a million different topics we've talked about, and it just takes practice, and it takes, you know, like you said, committing to your goals, looking at your goals that are written down in front of you every single day, having conversations like this with people like yourself, having conversations with your friends and your family, keeping you on track. Everything you're saying is tying together right now, putting yourself into, like, building groups for people, you know, helping yourself, helping these people, surrounding yourself with people that are bigger than you, and being okay to admit that, yeah, man, these people have accomplished great things, and that's okay, because I'm gonna get there too. And you got to believe in yourself, man. It all ties together.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I have to give you kudos on that. By the way, man, I watched a couple of your podcasts. I know that you're a veteran, so thanks for your service, man. I want to make sure I throw you kudos on that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Very big background military-wise, but it's so important that you kind of mentioned that it all ties together. It all ties together. And, you know, we did touch on a lot of topics today, but the importance that I want to kind of redrive home here is
Please.
I believe in white and black, positive and negative, you know, and if we are talking about progression and goal setting and entrepreneurship and the capability of achieving greatness, you know, we have to then make sure that we stress the importance of focusing on the positive. You know, I'll go ahead and tell you, you know, there's a story that I'll have to share, which is basically the law of attraction. You know, I think a lot of people talk about law of attraction. And let me tell you, my lady hates the law of attraction. But, you know, the idea of one, let me get some background, why she hates it. She's a very, very, very spiritual person, very grounded, and she wants all glory to be given to the highest. So that's why she hates it, you know. But the idea of focusing on the positive continuously, you know, having goals, knowing what you want to do, and then surrounding yourself with people, or even pushing, you know, so Brother Luck, let me just give you an example. I did not have access to Brother Luck or people of Brother Luck's caliber forever. You know, I will tell you, in the last year and a half, we've been building a friendship and relationship, but the idea of people not having what you're set out to, or excuse me, let me rephrase that. The idea of not having what you're setting out to have initially, you have to get out the house and go surround yourself with those possibilities. Because if I sat in my room and I never took a camera, I never made music videos, I would never have found Brother Luck, for example, or the caliber of people in his nature.
Sure.
But for any creator that has aspirations or goals and dreams, one, focus on the positive and do the things that we're saying. But most importantly, it's your journey, and you have to go do it. You have to go do something about it. You have to do. More importantly, you know, you have to just start. So with all that being said, I think that what I want to drive home is focusing on the positive, because it's either positive or negative. Our minds, we are challenged with this 80% negativity theory, which is basically 80% of what you hear is always negative. Well, if you hear that on a consistent basis over a 7-day period, over a month, over a year, and you have no reinforcement of positivity, you are bound to be negative. It's like that, the garden. It's like the garden of your mind. But the reason why I truly believe that not only am I successful or will I be successful is the mindset. So the mindset of being, you know, somebody like yourself, a creator who says, hey, I know that these conversations have value. I know that they need to be shared. Yeah. I don't know how to do a podcast. I sure as hell don't know how to do a video podcast, but I know that there's meaning. I don't know where it's going to go, right? I don't know what your podcast will end up be, man. You could be, you know, the newest, the biggest hit in 2 years, you know, but you would never be that hit if you didn't start 2 years ago.
That's exactly what I'm
So
thinking. That's exactly what I'm thinking.
I love the conversation of sharing with like-minded people. I love the conversation of pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
But I'm also a huge fan of mindset, man. A huge fan of mindset.
Yeah. You've said so many. I'm like stuttering because I'm like thinking about you came with so much tonight, and you said so many great things that I know will resonate very deeply with me and everybody listening. And I'm just always so thankful to speak with people like you, but just I'm always so thankful to see that people are, regardless of where they're at in their lives and where they're at, geographically, that there's other people out there getting it, and it motivates me in return. Like, I know and I ask certain questions sometimes, like when it comes up, like especially with you, resonated, like I already hit on, like you having a job and then doing your stuff on the side. Like, that's obviously, I already said like what I'm doing, but to reiterate, that's, I don't know, it continues to give me motivation, because I see how hard you're coming into it, and like how impassioned and like motivated you are about doing that. And you're like, not that I'm like giving up or anything, but like it just like it fuels my fire too, and I'm like, I'm gonna keep going too. And then I hope I can reciprocate that and add value to you as well, by one, like helping jog your mind and your thoughts and everything that you're thinking about, and having you like explain it why also help solidify it in your head, and then I can also help get your word out. So I hope I add value in that manner as well.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. And once again, I told you this beforehand, I thank you extremely, one, for the opportunity and the time alone, but the opportunity of the platform and to spread that message. I'm not sure of where it'll go. Kristof, I can tell you, this is my first time ever doing this.
Oh, wow. Thanks. That's awesome. I had no idea.
Yeah, so this is episode number 1 for me.
Man, it's always episode number 1 for me. I mean, that's how I gotta attack it. So no, that's really cool that even more so that you've done that, and that's another great example of just, you never done it. I would have never known. You crushed it, and that's cool. You went out there, you did it, you never done it before, you didn't let it stop you. So, I mean, how many examples do you need? That's awesome.
Yeah, man, and if I could show the world right behind me, I got 2 cameras set up, a microphone, a light, and let me tell you guys, none of those cameras are working. Like, I couldn't figure it out. But I knew my backup plan was, I got a camera on this computer, so I was like, man, if I can't figure it out now, I got to go to this. And then when the time hit, I was like, I got to put it together.
Yeah.
Once again, just to reiterate, man, we are never where we want to be. I don't think anybody is. And if you are, then you need new goals, right?
I agree. Yeah, that's a constant struggle, but it's hard to, like, we're talking about piecing everything together, right? And it's hard to like be happy in the moment.
Oh yeah.
Effectively, and then while you're like constantly searching for others. So like you have to like find this middle ground, and I told you, like, that's genuinely what I'm struggling right now in my life, to like ruthlessly want more for myself and my family, like ruthlessly. I mean, that's like the best word I can think of. Like, I'm going and doing everything I possibly can, but at the same time, like reeling myself back to reality a little bit, to be like, yeah, think about these goals that you don't think are obtainable and get after it, but at the same time, like, live in the moment and be happy while in the pursuit of this other happiness. It's tough. It's so tough.
I just to feed off that, Kristof, man, one of the biggest challenges that I face is time management, and
Absolutely.
It is a constant battle.
It's a struggle.
I mean, I have my 6-month-old son. I have my lady. I have a very close knit family here in Colorado Springs that. Like, for example, my little brother had a wrestling match tonight. These things that, let's say, pull you away in some sense, pull you away of your goals. It's tough to balance. And I'll go ahead and just expand on that a little bit. When me and my lady first got together, I was knee deep in this stuff. It wasn't anything new to me, but it was something that I told her. I said that I'm extremely open to this relationship at the time, but I will not sacrifice where I'm going. I know I'm going somewhere. I don't know where yet, and I want to do this with you. And that, you know, when I tell you about me and her, our conversations at the moment in current time, it's always about time management and balance. So trust me, it's not something that I can give advice to, because it might be skewed and based upon our relationship and the dynamics. Like I said, man, I got this office upstairs. Man, I can tell you, you know, she might hate it, but she loves it for me. You know what I mean? But our time management, as long as I'm in the house, you know, that's our compromise. As long as I'm in the house, then I can kind of work as late out as many hours as I want. But I'll kind of bring it back to me personally. You know, I'm not happy all the time in a sense of in the moment.
Yeah.
You know, there's times when I'm holding my son, I'll tell you, this is so true, man. This is raw. This is why I think I'm going to succeed, because I'm so raw and I'm so myself. I will not compromise who I am or the way that I go about things. And I think that organic approach, you know, will take you, you know, to where you want to be.
Yeah.
But just to bring it back, man, there was a moment, and this is so recent, that I'm holding my son. You know, he's a 6-month-old boy, man. He's the cutest boy in the world, if I may add. But I'm holding him, right? And, you know, she might have been doing X, Y, and Z. And I'm ungrateful because I want to work, right? So catch me on this. You ready? I'm holding my 6-month-old son, who is the most precious thing in my life. And I'm ungrateful because I'd rather be doing some work for a dollar amount, because, you know, I got contracts and obligations to clients and things in that nature. But to spin this full circle, right? That battle is something that I'm willing to face, that I'm willing to go through the battle to come out, you know, or through the storm, let's say, to come out with the sunshine. And my lady's going to watch this and know this is so fresh. But, you know, there was a comment that she made the other day that challenged where I thought we were, right? Because I have this perception of, hey, we're here.
Sure.
She said something so outlandish, and it made me, like, have a perspective like, you really think that? Like, this is what I'm working so hard for, is to, you know, glorify me and not take my family with me?
Yeah.
Like I'm doing this for us, like our family.
Yeah.
So I encourage you, Kristof, that, you know, the happiness aspect is never something you will fully resolve. I don't believe that you will be 100% happy. But what you can be is 100% happy with yourself, you know, and that comes from a place of understanding. Man, I'm on a tangent here, but this is something in real time I'm going through. I heard in a speech, I surround myself with like these motivational speeches 24/7, but in a speech it challenged you basically that if you have a negative emotion to a memory that you have over a year and a half, so it basically gave a time slot of a year and a half. If you have a memory, anything past the 1.5 year mark, and you have a negative emotion to it, you have to revisit that. And, you know, this is something that I'm writing it out. Like, the practice will tell you to write these things out. You know, what are these memories? And I'm almost writing an autobiography, Kristof, is going through these memories. I'm really exploring, you know, what did I go through? Why did I go through that? And more specifically, what can I learn from that? Because if I'm going to take a full step forward after everything I've learned, then that'll be a full step. But if you don't learn from your past, then you'll never take a full step. And that was the idea that he was harping on, which is basically you have to learn from your past. Any negative emotion that you have to explore that. What was it? What happened? How can you learn? And what would you change? Are the 4 things that I'm writing about. And I'm finding that, you know, and these can go from a very high level to very low level subject matters, but it's all based on the premise of your emotion to that memory, and 100% is it driven on your happiness. Because I can tell you that I have so many memories in the past that are, you know, held me back. Man, that mental health video that I told you about with Brother Luck, that mental health video, I truly felt genuinely in my heart that he was talking to me. That he was talking to me the whole time. And, you know, I say that to bring it back my point, my message in this whole statement is that happiness is a journey, and that more specifically, our journey, and this is to you too, Kristof, that your journey is the story. You know, your journey is the story. And I'm so fascinated with that idea and so intrigued in that pursuit, in that battle of happiness that I'd love to share that with you guys.
No, thank you so much for sharing that. It's incredible, and a huge. There's too many takeaways for me to like regurgitate all again, but
Yeah, man,
absolutely.
I go tangent. Sorry there.
No. Never, ever, ever, ever. If you're gonna stop doing something today, I'm gonna say stop apologizing for that, because all of it was absolute fire. It was amazing. It was so deep. It was so emotional. It was everything that I truly hope comes out. Like, you speak about things coming out organically, and that's essentially like my pitch when I'm cold calling or cold emailing people, is what I think is about extremely unique about this channel is the ability to get deep quick and to be organic and raw. And those are all things that you said yourself. For that to come out as, you know, as your words, when that's how I want it to come out, it's really cool for it that you brought up organically, and it's crazy. It's maybe funny to hear, but nah, because all those things came up, and it resonated so closely with things I'm struggling with, which ultimately means that other people are going through those things as well. And it's really tough to share those things about yourself personally. It's really hard to share those things about your family. Like, that's what I love about one of the things I love about what you're doing is your transparency and yourself and of your family and sharing those things, because like I always say, you know, somebody's bound to be going through that as well. And here I am looking right at you through a camera, you know, face to face, and I can tell you I'm going through those things as well. And when you're so caring and passionate about what you're doing, as I am with this podcast, and then obviously you love your family, and you know, I love my wife and I love my baby to be, but man, it sure is tough. Like, you talked about time management and being able to like correctly, like, I want to give the world to her and be able to like give all the time in the world to her, but at the same time I'm so fueled and so passionate and so hot on like spending time on this project. You know, it's not even a project, that's like underwhelming way to say it, but I'm so impassioned about both of them. But that's your family, so you got to be able to like correctly time management. And I've talked about it with her. I've talked about it. We went live and we talked about it. You know, other people approached me after that saying that, hey, me and my husband are going through this stuff too. So I know people are struggling. You know, it's not just you, it's not just me, it's not just you listening. You know, whoever's listening to the podcast, it's somebody else is going through it too. So to be able to dig deep, to not be afraid to dive deep, to not be afraid to talk about stuff that's emotionally, I don't care who the hell you are, like, it needs to be talked about. Like, we're human, we have these things that are going on through us, and they're all important things that need to be talked about if you do seek to improve yourself. And if you don't, then disregard everything. You're not going to be listening to this conversation if you don't care somewhat. You will not have made it, you know, an hour into this thing if you didn't care about improving yourself, because all of these things are just geared towards helping you and helping ourselves.
Yeah, man. And something that Brother Luck shared with me that like I told you, man, that mental health video is so important to me. But he was basically saying, I told him, I was like, man, while you're speaking all this stuff, like, I'm filming, watching audio, you know, got all these things running through my brain, but the whole time he's talking to me, like directly to me, and he's talking about his life. But the idea that we are all going through the same thing it's so real. And what Brother Luck said to me that was intriguing about this subject is that in order to be able to share your story, you first have to come to grips with it. And that right there just gave me chills. It's still, to this day, it still gives me chills. Because if you are not okay with your past or your story, there's no way that you will share it. And, you know, if you don't share it, then somebody feels, you know, what the positive that could have came out of you sharing it will never live, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is so important to me, because let me tell y'all, this is my last thought before I go on another tangent. So I truly believe, and this is so sincere from my heart, I truly believe that I will tell my story at some point. I haven't come to grips with, all of it yet, but I'm willing to share and be transparent with, the things that I am sharing, but I told my buddy this, probably a month ago. I was saying, through all the videos that I'm doing, through all the notoriety or, whatever it is, that happens with, the consequence of doing film, right? I told him, I said that I want to be successful in doing what I'm doing first. And this isn't something that everybody should do. This is personal. This is Dana Keith, all right? That I'm extremely passionate about, gaining my platform or achieving the things that I want to achieve before I share my story. But I will get to share my story. I just have to come to grips with it. And like I told you, I have to write it out. I got to figure out what the fuck happened, why the fuck did it happen, and what can I learn from this so that I can really take a full step forward. But I tell you that because, I'm not where I want to be. And, I can sound all put together, guys. This is just genuine. This is from the heart. I'm not where I want to be, but I will tell you this, that when Brother Luck told me that you have to come to grips with your past to then be able to share it, and only then will you be able to share it, I knew at that time that I will get to that stage. And man, I don't want that story to be the reason why I'm successful. So I'll tell you what, Kristof, I got to make I'm working on a documentary. I got to make this documentary, get that moment that I'm looking for to then be able to really take a deep dive and to really help the world, man, because, my story is just like everybody else's story. It's tough, it's rugged, it's unexplainable, it's painful. And to be truthful, Kristof, I'm sure you relate to this. We all are going through that every day, but once again, the reason why we are here having these conversations is we don't want to live in that. I don't want to stay there forever. I'm not okay with being there forever. I'm not okay with just thinking about the past and those negative emotions. Like I genuinely want to move forward, and and whatever that looks like, it will come to be. So I'm writing that autobiography. I'm starting the game.
It most definitely will come into fruition because you're having conversations and because of the plethora of things that you are doing to garner that forward momentum. I mean, you're one foot after another. You're just doing what it takes, man. And everything you've said is just geared towards that ultimate whatever you're trying to. And it, like, I love what you said. You started with you may not know ultimately what you're going for, but you're going for it, and that's totally fine. So I think that's a great note to end on. Dana Keith, my man, this has been an amazing, talking about journeys and stories. I mean, you just beautifully wrote a story for the podcast, sharing your life, sharing your family, sharing your experiences, your work, your day job, your passions, all of it, man. I am always, I say it every single time, and I say this every single time. I'm truly, we're talking about being grateful for things, but I'm always grateful that people will share their story with me, and I know I'm sharing my story along the way, bits and bits on this podcast, but I really just want to learn about my guests, and I want people to learn about them and their mindset, because that is also very important to me. But I can, look at you and say thank you so much for sharing all those things. I know it's not easy. It's not easy for me talking about certain things, but ultimately they will benefit you and they will benefit other people. So it's better out than in. So thank you.
Hey man, Kristof, once again, man, thanks for the opportunity and the platform to have the conversation with a genuine person like yourself.
Thank you.
Couldn't thank you enough. Once again, my name is Dana Keith. You can probably find me on Facebook, Dana Keith, Instagram, Dana Keith _Branchwood. And then my website, DanaKeithFilm.com. Check it out. That's all me. And definitely reach out if you guys need anything. I'm more than happy to share.
But yeah, man, I really do appreciate it. And all those things you listed, we'll throw them in the summary. People check it out. I highly encourage people to check out. I mean, this video, or I say video because I'm looking at you right now, but this podcast has given the opportunity for a lot of people to learn multitude of things. However, I highly suggest them go visit your page and all, your Instagram. That's one of the things that I'm watching. I mean, I know you have your YouTube too, and you have some stuff there, obviously, but I'm a huge Instagrammer, and I look at your Instagram, and the stuff that you have there is great too, and it's everything we've talked about now and more, like way more stuff, and it's just going to continue and continue and continue. So I do highly suggest that. So thank you very much. I really appreciate connecting with you and being able to tell your story, my man.
Hey, man, thank you so much, man. A pleasure. Can't wait for round 2. Let me know.
That's right. We'll do 140. I don't know. We'll see.
All right.
But it's gonna keep on going.